My name is Jean Rommes, and I'm a member of this church, and I serve on the Endowment Disbursement Committee and the Adult Religious Education Council. My involvement in the church began in 2007, following the death of my husband, who was a wonderful man, father, and husband, despite being a diehard Episcopalian who could never get his head around Unitarian Universalism. Many of you know what it's like to lose a loved one and how important it is to be able to grieve and grow in a safe environment. I found that here, especially in the small group ministry that I joined almost immediately. As I began to be more aware of things beyond me, I began to pay attention more to the life of the church. In bits and pieces, it revealed something that was far more than just the comfort of a weekly service and Mark's sermons that never failed to touch something in me and give me things to think about on the 45-minute ride home. It was more than the unconditional acceptance and interest in me that I felt in small group. There was a vibrant children's program. There were many church-related activities. There were forums on interesting subjects. There were social events. And there were those incredible Wednesday nights when it seemed like there was way more noise than would ever be acceptable in most churches, and semi-controlled chaos was a pretty accurate description of the activity level. I moved to West Des Moines early in 2010, and I joined the ranks of the semi-retired. That meant that I was closer by about 20 minutes to church, and when there was an invitation for people who might be interested in organizing adult religious education activities, I came because I was curious. I've been there ever since, becoming more and more and more involved. The Young Adult and Adult OWL Facilitator training is the current culmination of that effort. It was really just icing on the cake that my other responsibility at the church, the Endowment Disbursement Committee, was able to provide a REACH grant to help fund the project. It seems very strange to me to say it, but I am devoted to this church. Devotion is not a word that I would associate with me, but it's apt. I find great satisfaction in having a church home and being able to contribute to it through my time and effort. It's also important to me that everything I see going on around me continues. I initially pledged because that's what you do. You support the organization that support you. I honestly don't remember what I pledged initially, but I remember thinking with satisfaction that it was more than I had ever pledged before to any group, and I hoped that it wasn't going to be a stretch with my newly retired situation. I've increased my pledge every year since then because I believe more and more in what we're doing, who we are in the community, what we represent as an alternative to rigid dogma, our current status as an open congregation, and our continued struggle to face our own prejudices and fears in order to be more open. This church is growing by leaps and bounds, in numbers, but more importantly, in activity level, in inclusion, in commitment to the betterment of the whole community, and in all those intangible elements that allow this congregation to really rock. To do that, we have to have a solid financial base so we can continue to fairly compensate our staff and continue to fund our programs. So when I'm asked to submit my pledge card this year, after the February 23rd and 24th services, I'll be increasing my pledge by at least $50 so that we can continue our journey. My pledge will be a token of my devotion to this church and a church that is devoted to me. Thanks.